You're watching 16 News Now Digital Plus's 16 Sports Extra, brought to you by Gates Automotive.
Welcome in to 16 Sports Extra.
Look at all of us.
The little bug is on my
And the little I
didn't even see that.
Face.
All right, well,
It's fine.
We should keep
Have it
that.
there.
Keep that audio. Keep that. That's a good start.
that's a great start. Yes, that was start number what, like 2 or 3?
Yeah.
We've had some technical
We're
difficulties.
one take Tony's over here. What are you talking about? We don't repeat takes ever.
Yeah, we just go with it.
Yeah.
All right,
And
well,
guys, I'm here now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sabrina's
Sabrina's back in the flesh.
Yeah.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
after her 1 week sabbatical from
I know.
this. She couldn't handle Jackson and I for multiple weeks in a row. Heaven forbid.
It was scheduling issues.
Yeah, it was tough.
Scheduling conflicts.
Scheduling, yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
Off
Anyway.
days.
Off days,
Off
yeah.
days,
What are
quote.
those?
But you were off last Monday. That's why we had to switch it up.
It's
That was
Labor
you
Day.
can't make
It's
fun of
called-
off days.
It's called America. You ever heard of it?
Okay.
Labor Day, yeah.
Labor Day. They literally were like, you could not move off your couch, and I'm like, okay, fine.
There's no holidays in
You're
sports,
like-
Austin.
Yeah, I know. Look, I'm very much aware when I'm covering a high school baseball sectional final on Memorial Day. Okay?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
That's a good
thank
point.
you, IHSA.
Well, we're not covering high school baseball today. We're covering high school football.
Oh, is that what we talk about in this podcast?
Yeah,
That
the
is what we
football's
talk about right
behind
now.
us.
Video podcast?
Yeah, a little football right behind
I like
us.
that. Nice touch. Nice touch.
It's been there for every single episode.
I haven't paid attention.
That's
He
okay.
doesn't pay attention.
You act like I pay attention.
All right, there we go. All right, so just got done week 3 this past Friday. I guess let's just start with biggest thing you saw last Friday. Austin, you want to get it started?
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to apologize to New Prairie and Mishawaka for mostly half jinxing them. Mostly half jinxing, I think is the proper term, because I was saying, like, if they both win last week 3, like, it's going to be hard not to think about a regional game between the two, and then they both lost. So I think the biggest takeaway is that New Prairie lost, mostly because of how South Bend St. Joseph played. 7-0 win, so their offense wasn't great, but that defensive performance was incredible. I was at that game, and just really impressive performance from the Huskies. I mean, they were flying all over the place. They knew exactly what they wanted to do against that New Prairie offensive scheme, and they executed to perfection. So a lot of credit to Coach Ben Downey and his staff for getting them ready to go. This is the biggest win for St. Joe in maybe a decade, since they have really made, they've been searching for a win like this for a while. Maybe they can turn the corner, get this program back to that, state contender program that it was in the early 2010s and throughout the 90s and 2000s. So I'm not saying St. Joe going to state. Let's one step at a time here, but this felt like a program turning win for St. Joe in the sense that, like, they might get back to what we remember Huskies football being like, 15, 20 plus years ago.
Yeah,
And I
I was there too. That was a kind of a boring.
You were there
game.
for the only touchdown of the game. You showed up and St. Joe scored.
I should have stayed there longer, I guess.
Yeah.
You even said Ben Downey, didn't he say something about that's the best defensive performance he's
Yeah,
seen?
and look, St. Joe's made its name on defense. You look at some of their runs to state, they don't give up a lot of points in the state tournament, in those runs. So for him to say, that was one of the best defensive performances that he's coached, and he's coached 102 games at St. Joe, so that's a lot of games. He called it, he said we've had some doozies in defense, which I thought, doozies is a great word. I just love that. We've had some doozies, and this one's right up there, basically, is what he said after the game. So, a lot of credit to them and really bottling up New Prairie. Other than a handful of plays, they had a couple, a big run from Robinson in the 4th, but then they stopped him next 4 plays, and then a big throw late in the game that was deflected, and New Prairie caught it for 43 yards. They gained, I think, 2 more yards total after that. So kudos to the St. Joe defense for bending a little bit, but never breaking, and they really dominated the first 3 quarters of the game. From the end of the first drive to the end of the game, basically, St. Joe's defense was locked down. It was impressive to watch.
It really was. Sabrina, how about you? What was your big takeaway after last Friday?
Yeah, so I was at that Penn South Bend Riley game. That wasn't my biggest takeaway, even though that was a big just bounce back for Penn after losing to Mishawaka the week prior to that. But my biggest one was that Concord-Mishawaka game. I think everyone was watching that game because it was, back and forth. 35-34 was the final Concord. I told Jackson during our Friday Night Football show, I was like, is Concord the heartbreakers of this season? Because the way that they beat Elkhart by 1 point in week 1 and the way they played against Mishawaka, a team that seemed pretty unstoppable going into this matchup. especially knowing how they have such a young squad coming back. Landon Snyder had a great game in week 2. Obviously, Caden O'Neill puts up a lot of points in rushing yards, but it was crazy to see. Concord's a dangerous team, and I feel like we saw that against Mishawaka. And we see that they can. They're a second half, or they're full, just full game team. But also in the second half, it seems like they just keep the pedal to the metal. And I feel like that's how their identity has kind of been. Is like they're not going to give up.
Yeah, Concord is 3 points away from being 1-2 on this year.
They
are. 2 missed extra points in the Elkhart game. That Concord won 13-12, and then Mishawaka decides to go for 2 and to win, and they don't get it, and that's how Concord beats Mishawaka. So they are really close to being 1-2, but they are 3-0, and they are the only unbeaten team left in the Tribune's coverage area, both sides of the state line.
Wow.
I know we don't cover some schools like St. Joseph in Michigan, or like a North Judson. Like we don't like specifically the Tribune don't cover those teams. So there are still some other area teams undefeated, but Concord 3-0 is the only one that we full on cover that is undefeated. So they are number 1 in our power rankings, which means they will lose this week because the last 2 number 1 teams have lost in Penn to Mishawaka and then Mishawaka to Concord. So upset alert, Northridge over Concord. Watch out.
It's the curse of number 1.
It is. I think I'm not going to put if Concord loses to Northridge, I'm not going to put a number 1 team next week. It's just going to be, here's 10 teams in alphabetical order.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I have a question. Did you see Concord, like going into the season, did you see them being 3-0 to this point?
It wasn't out of the realm of possibility, just given the talent they had on their roster.
Okay.
But it's hard to think, they're going to beat Elkhart and Mishawaka both, right? Like I think coming in, Jimtown felt like a win for them, their week 2 game. But it was going to be toss-ups with the Concord and Mishawaka games, the Elkhart and Mishawaka games, and that ended up being right. Like literally came down to the last plays, both games. So 3-0, yeah, it wasn't like. I'm not shocked to see Concord 3-0, but it was going to be, I wouldn't have bet on it just because you're playing 2 really strong programs at Elkhart and Mishawaka right away.
Right.
So you would have thought maybe they lose one of those games. To win both of them is really impressive, I would say.
Yeah, you can't always count on wins in the games like that, but I mean, the best teams win close games.
They find a way to win.
They just find a way to win.
Concord, the last couple of years, has struggled with finding ways to win, and they've done it so far this season. Obviously, there's a lot of ball left to go, but they're looking really, really solid. First 3 weeks of the season.
Of course, and then so you talked about Concord, Sabrina. You talked about St. Joseph.
What's your biggest takeaway?
Oh,
Those were going to be my 2 biggest takeaways, so I guess I'll have to go somewhere.
They were the biggest games.
They really were.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to that Penn beating South Bend
Yes.
Riley 35-7. I think for Penn, that was what that showed me for that program is that even after a big loss like they had to Mishawaka, something that does not happen very often for the Kingsmen, they're able to just come back the next week and just take care of business.
Yep.
And even with a new coach this season, that's still Penn. That's how Penn operates. That even if they have a setback, they're right back in the win column. There's no 2, 3, 4 game losing streaks. So I think that was a really big takeaway for me because I know that was a close game there with 14-0 at halftime. Second half, they just kind of come out and then run away with it. Shows me this Penn team is just kind of back to being, Penn football that they can have a misstep, but it's not going to derail the whole season.
Yeah, and give Riley credit for playing hard and playing competitively. They just didn't have the guys to match up. The skill, skill guys and the big guys up front. Riley is a scrappy team. I mean, they're not going to ever have to play a team like Penn in the postseason, of course. And so, I'm not discouraged too much if I'm Riley by that. I think it actually was okay. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be similar to the Elkhart-Washington score.
Yeah.
And Riley is not that. Riley is much more, they know what they are. They like their defense. The offense is still kind of coming along for Riley, but I wasn't too discouraged if I'm a Riley fan. Playing Penn to 35-7, it's honestly the closest they've played them probably in a long time. I know they didn't play for a decade, but even when Riley was playing Penn, by the way, I think I saw a stat that Penn has not lost to a South Bend team since like 1982.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So it's been a long time since Penn has lost to either Adams, Riley, St. Joe, Washington, Clay, LaSalle back in the day.
Well, Clay back in the day now.
And Clay back in the day. Yeah, Clay back in the day. LaSalle back in the day. A little farther back in the day for LaSalle.
Yeah, of course.
20 years ago. But, they have not lost to a South Bend team in a really long time.
And then I talked to actually Dark Lee before the game, and we kind of talked, and my first question was like, that week 2 postponage or the suspended game against the Lightning, that was kind of weird, just like preparation wise going into this game against Penn. I feel like not like it was I guess a setback for them, but it was kind of like, oh dang, we couldn't finish that game. Now we got to look towards a team that's just coming off that big loss to Mishawaka. They're hungry, you know what I mean? So like he knew, of course, it was going to be a tough matchup going up against them. But again, just like you said, I mean, they didn't really have the guys like a lot of the key players they had last year aren't on this team again this year. They had a great year last year, so it's hard to do that. But also they couldn't really move the ball down the field, and you could kind of tell offensively they were kind of struggling a little bit.
Yeah, you wonder like if Riley had maybe come back and beat Wayne in week 2, like do they have extra motivation juice going into this week? It kind of is a flat ending. It's like it's
How are you supposed to feel about that week after that's the way the game ends?
Yeah, right. It's like, well, we didn't lose, but we were losing.
Yep.
But we didn't win. Like, okay, like whatever. It's like the end of Game of Thrones. Whatever.
I didn't
no
see
winner,
that.
no loser.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
I mean that it's just don't watch the last season of Game of Thrones. Get to the first 7 and then just turn it off.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll get through the first
I don't
7.
think
That's a lot.
Get through the first 7 and then just turn it off.
We don't have time for that, Austin.
and then watch House of the Dragon.
There's too many high school and Notre Dame
we got too
podcasts we
much
have to do
stuff
around
going
here.
on.
Okay, especially Notre Dame
Yeah.
podcast now. Okay,
Yeah.
stay tuned for Pot of Gold later this week.
Oh
That should
boy,
be fun.
that'll be a little more lively than this one.
Yeah, that'll be a little more.
This one's lively too, but that one's going to be interesting.
That could be interesting. So one score you kind of mentioned there. We don't have to touch on the actual game that much. Elkhart beating South Bend Washington 69-0. I
Right.
do want to touch on that because Sabrina, you did a story with the Elkhart football team last week. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience talking with them?
Yeah. So it was funny. So Marion Dye, he committed he's an edge rusher, but he committed to University of Tennessee back in June, I think, right?
June or July.
Right
around there.
And so
Summertime.
Summertime. So saw that he was finding success, and I was looking and I was like, wait, Trayvon Curry, the new head coach for Elkhart, I was like, he's known him since elementary school. And I was like, that's a really, really cool story to even have that as his coach now in his senior year going on to play ball at the next level. So I was like, okay, let me interview them. So Trayvon Curry, great things to say about Marion. He's known his older brother for years, and he actually had a funny story about his mom. Apparently, when he coaches an AAU basketball team as well. So when Marion was little, Trayvon was saying that he wanted to keep Marion in the game like the last 10 seconds, and his mom was like, "You're gonna kill my baby," and it's like this funny story about leaving him in for 10 seconds was gonna kill him.
Yeah.
But Marion remembers that story, so it was kind of cool to see them both remember some of the old stuff from the past. And then when I talked to Marion, he would talk about how if he got in trouble in class or something, he knew he could always go to Trayvon's classroom because Trayvon is the one that would be there for him through anything, talk about anything school related, life related. So it's almost like another father figure for him. And knowing all that and knowing that he's also his coach now is a really unique story because he can go to him for anything football related, but he knows it's something beyond football. So.
Yeah, I think Trayvon only left him in for 10 seconds against South Bend Washington, probably too. So
Probably. I mean,
that's
I think
my
it's
takeaway.
Yeah.
No, that was mean. I'm sorry, South Bend Washington. That was a mean dig. I didn't mean to do that. But it's a great story. I mean, the relationship. Everyone talks about the relationship between player and coach is special. You could see that. And you could really see that with Trayvon and Marion. And Trayvon he's an Elkhart guy. I mean, he went to Elkhart. I believe he went to Elkhart Central. Graduated there. He's been an assistant coach forever at Elkhart. He bleeds Elkhart. This guy he's committed to building this program and wanting to win. And look, I know. Look, last week's score 69-0. It's a little crazy.
Yeah.
They're not going to win every game like that, obviously. But with them being at full strength, for lack of a better term now, with Novell Miller and Carmine Orozco eligible to play, they become kind of dangerous. They become kind of dangerous. And so they play out Riley coming up, but their schedule, sets up where it feels like week 7 with Penn is going to be a monumental type game.
Yeah, it's really feeling like that's
So-
going to be a collision course right now, and just such a cool story too. That's what I love about high school football, and high school
yeah.
sports in general. That kind of like the community.
Yeah, and you saw that same type of brotherhood with Northern Illinois against Notre Dame.
Wow. Did he
Yeah,
just do
yeah,
that,
yeah. I
guys?
think he did. Yeah, I mean,
Hey, my dad's an
did-
NIU alum. I got to give some. I gotta. You know.
But again,
But that's what But like that Thomas Hammock interview. Legitimately, I'm not trying to throw a dig at
yeah,
Notre Dame.
yeah.
Like, you watched the Northern Illinois coach after the game, and he was crying about the guys, and that's the type of relationship that Trayvon and Marion have at Elkhart. You know, I'm sure when Marion dies, senior season ends here, there's going to be some tears.
And
You know,
that's what Trayvon was saying too. He's like, I'm gonna miss him so much because not
Right.
only is he a father figure and he's gonna go see him play at University of Tennessee here and there. That relationship's never gonna change. But what changes now is he's not gonna be beside him on Friday Night Lights, and I think that's the one thing where he's kind of like soaking it all in. The last few moments he gets with him, it's a bittersweet moment, and it is it's sweet to see their relationship on the field. And he knows that he even said at the end of that interview, he was like, I'm going to be there when Marion has his first kid, when he gets married. Like, he knows this is something way beyond football. But again, it is bittersweet to know this is his last year. So
I love that soundbite from the coach right there. Just talking about I'm be there when he's married.
I love that.
That
Yeah.
was such a great story. Great job, Sabrina, on that one. You
Thank
can
you,
find
yeah.
that story on WNDU.com right now on our sports tab under high school sports. How about that?
Look at that.
Love that little
Cheap
throw
plug.
in.
Yeah, a
Cheap
little
plug.
cross promotion right
You
there.
got to plug your own content, man.
You got
Of course,
to.
that's what you have to do. All right, so let's get back to some more results from this past Friday night. Austin, I want to ask you specifically one score that kind of stood out to me: Northridge Plymouth. Northridge winning 13-7, close game right there. What's your main takeaway from that one?
I think the takeaway is that Plymouth is probably better than we think they're going to be, and maybe Northridge isn't as good as we think they are, but that is I think a combination of just where the rosters are at for both teams right now. Plymouth, we've kind of talked about it a little bit. They just have so many experienced players, and I think Northridge is a young team trying to figure things out. So a lot of that is them trying to, kind of came together all in one game there. And I think we had talked about it, last week. Like, that was a game that Plymouth could have won that game. Like, I thought going in, Plymouth had a chance to win. So the fact it was only 13-7, makes me, validates most of my thinking, I think, with that. And so, it's an interesting result. Northridge gets their first win. Now they get to play Concord, who's coming off a monumental, emotional win, and they're number one in the power rankings. So who knows?
Yeah, so actually heads up there.
Heads up to Concord.
Yeah.
Watch out. And but yeah, I don't know. I mean, Northridge and Plymouth. Yeah, I think Northridge is still, like, they're young and they're trying to figure things out, and Plymouth is experienced and they know who they are, and that can make a maybe less talented, air quote, team play up to that, to do a Northridge. Plymouth is going to be feisty. I think they got a chance. They're not going to, obviously, I think, win the NLC. They still have to play Warsaw and Concord and Mishawaka. Those are the three at the top right now, but they're gonna be feisty against, they have winnable games at Goshen and Wawasee. They'll be feisty, I think, with Northwood even. Plymouth is definitely feels like they're on the right track to getting back to maybe a consistently strong winner in the area.
Of course, and a couple other scores I just want to kind of highlight. Jimtown 35-0 over Fairfield. First win of the Cody Vincent era.
Emotional win, beating their former coach in Corey Stoner at Fairfield. Yeah, congratulations to Cody Vincent, a good friend of mine. My deir personal friend,
Your
Cody
best
Vincent. No, Cody's a good guy. I've known him for a few years now, and he's a good dude. I'm happy for him. That win kind of opens up everything, I think, for Jimtown again. Who knows? We'll see. But, and Fairfield just kind of head-scratching back-to-back shutout losses after they beat Goshen 55-17 in the first week. So
There were quite a bit shutout losses.
There was a good amount this week.
Fairfield, I think, they got to look themselves in the mirror, really, and not to pull a cliche out there, but, they got some soul-searching to do with a 3-0 Culver Academy coming to town this week.
Yeah.
And then one
Not
more.
trying to look ahead too much. We're saving that for later.
I got one more score I want to just highlight from last week, and then we can look ahead. I want to go north of the border. I want to go to Michigan for a second. I know you mentioned you don't cover St. Joseph, Michigan, but we cover them around here in WNDU studios.
Bears.
Yeah, so they beat Edwardsburg 36-29. Big result for them for an Edwardsburg team. We talked about this last week, Austin. we thought Edwardsburg was looking really good after that 40-8 win over John Glenn. Where it's like this team could be really, really solid this year. So for St. Joseph, that's a big win.
Yeah, Edwardsburg does not have their original starting quarterback, Zeke Bagura. He's out. It sounds like it was a pretty serious injury. Actually, he got injured in the Glenn game. But from what I was told, it's not like this is not like he's going to play the rest of the year.
Okay.
So,
wow. Okay.
very unfortunate. And so honestly, kudos to Edwardsburg for keeping it within 7 with their backup quarterback. I think that St. Joseph beat Niles by 23 in week 1, and then they, and then we think Niles is going to be better than Edwardsburg, I guess. So the fact that Edwardsburg played St. Joseph closer with their backup quarterback, Grady Ostrander had 3 rushing touchdowns for the Eddies. St. Joseph looks strong though. I mean, so maybe they'll be a contender to make a run from Southwest Michigan. But I actually wasn't. I was, even though they lost, I was kind of impressed with Edwardsburg's ability to stay in that game. Make it competitive at least, and fight to the end. So, kudos to the Eddies for hanging in there with a new quarterback. But maybe they're better than we think they're going to be. We saw that last week too after they destroyed Glenn. But now with the backup quarterback, even playing a good game against St. Joe, like Edwardsburg's going to have a chance to be there at the end to win the Wolverine Conference. It's going to be them. It's going to be Niles. It's going to be Paw Paw in that those 3 teams battling for the Wolverine Conference championship probably.
Of course. All right, so now it's time to look.
Oh, wait, okay.
Oh,
I wanted to bring...
Sabrina's got one more
take. Sorry.
Okay, so sorry.
Hot takes.
Hot
brought to you
take.
by
I was at the
Gates Automotive.
The Mishawaka-Marion game for a little bit.
Oh,
that
yes.
was before...
Adams. Marion and Adams.
Marion and Adams. So that was Marion's first win of the season, correct?
Yes.
So,
after,
And so when we think about it, because it's like, it was almost a little bit shocking to me at least, because like knowing how much like talent they had coming back, and this was like
but they had a tough schedule. I mean,
that's true.
Mishawaka week 1 and Culver Academy is all of a sudden better than we think they're 3-0. Culver Academy could easily be. They have a really good chance to be 6-0. Their next 3 games are not that challenging. So
for them
Culver Academy is actually that was a game we thought early coming into the season they could win, or at least it was a toss-up game.
Right.
And they only lost by 4. Marion only lost to them by
true.
4. But Culver Academy then beat Knox this past week.
Gotcha.
So they feels like Culver Academy actually might be for real in Class 4A, and their sectional alignment sets up kind of nicely for them. So they might have a chance to win a sectional. It's kind of weird. They don't win a lot of postseason. They're not like a great historic program, Culver Academy. Usually the private schools can be. And you would think an academy like that would be good at football, like Army or Navy, dumb things like that. Maybe they were good back in the 30s, like Army and Navy. I don't know. It's a military academy. So anyway, but yes, not to distract from the Marion point.
No.
Culver Academy. I'm just saying, watch out for Culver Academy.
There we go.
Okay, and then I think it was just like it was a good win. I know it's going up against South Bend Adams, but it's a good win to get them back on track and going into the season with again their first win of the season. So.
Then that transitions nicely to where we're going for this upcoming
I'm trying
week.
to point to you on the screen
Because Austin, Sabrina, what do you think the game of the week we should highlight should be? Anyone have any thoughts?
If I could guess.
Yeah, anyone? Because I'm thinking it might be the South Bend St. Joe at Marion. What
I don't know if you've heard.
Enlighten me.
There's like this big Catholic university in town. It's called Notre Dame.
Not Northern Illinois.
And so the couple Catholic high schools that are in the area kind of get some more notoriety because of that too. And that would be South Bend St. Joseph and Mishawaka-Marion.
I've heard of them.
And when they play each other, they call this thing called the Holy War.
Oh, really?
Crazy.
Yeah.
And so they're playing.
So we should probably talk about that as the first game this week.
I would recommend leading off your week 4 preview with that.
Yeah, that sounds like a good spot to start. So with this Holy War, guys, I mean, what are we saying?
Who wants to take the lead on this one first?
You go first.
I'll go first.
You're the guest.
I will. Am I the guest or am I like a host? Right?
Sabrina, you can't say he's the guest when he's been on more episodes than you have.
I was going to say Sabrina is the guest.
Like at this point, if we're just going off appearances, like. I mean, gotta be honest.
I mean, this is going to be a fun game on Friday. It's always a fun game. Last year, the game came down to the last possession. Marion got a stop in the rain. I was there week 9. It was miserable. It was a bad football game from start to finish, and Marion got the last stop at St. Joe to win 13-10, I believe was the final score.
Wow.
It was kind of a gross football game. Obviously, St. Joseph has the momentum coming off that win against New Prairie. That was the biggest win in terms of like upset, air quote, significance. I think last week it was St. Joe over New Prairie, Concord over Mishawaka. Close second, but it wasn't a shock that Concord beat Mishawaka. I think some people were legitimately surprised St. Joe beat New Prairie. So St. Joe has a lot of momentum. They're kind of the buzz team, right? The buzzworthy team right now. How they handled that, it's going to be interesting. And I think it helps them that they're playing Marion this week because this is an opponent they're locked in on a Marion no matter what. They could be 0-9, 9-0. Like they're going to get up to play Marion. So I think it actually helps that they're playing Marion this week because it shouldn't be a distraction. There shouldn't be like, we're reading the articles and the press clippings, right, and the tweets about how great we are. We're going to like let it get to our heads and lose to someone we shouldn't lose to. Notre Dame. Sorry.
That was coming.
It was coming.
Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah. And in Marion, I don't want to. There's a couple teams I'm looking at this week. I don't want to say they're make or break moments, but this is kind of a make or break ish type moment for Marion. Like if they really think that they could be a really strong team and make a playoff run, I don't think they need to win this game. But like you go to 1-3. And not many people are going to be really talking about you much, anymore. And it's like, okay, well, they're going to lose, lose 2 or 3 other games before. Like this feels like it's going to determine kind of the future of the rest of the season for Marion. And if St. Joe gets this win, I'm not saying it opens up the possibilities, but like even more. But like if St. Joe gets this win, they already have a win over New Prairie. Marion was expected to be like in that mix to like who would be the 3rd or 4th, 5th team in the conference. You're staring at games with Elkhart and Penn down the stretch that might determine the NI. Like if who knows? Like if St. Joe could get Elkhart, and Penn gets Elkhart potentially. Like you're looking at St. Joe Penn week 9 for the like this could be every conference game obviously affects the conference championship race, but this is a big one for St. Joe because if they win this game, like.
It positions them.
That gives them a lot of belief that they could beat, and they've already got that win over New Prairie. I know New Prairie and Elkhart are 2 different teams, but like Elkhart seems like that second team in the NIC. They already beat the 3rd team, who we thought was, and now they can beat the 2nd team potentially.
Yeah.
This is a big moment I think for St. Joe if they want to really maybe contend for this NIC championship.
And you're right because it's like. About like pivotal moments, like this could be a moment where momentum starts to shift. You maybe not have the best first 2 weeks of like the season, but going further on, like this is when like your offense can start clicking, and I know they have a bunch of seniors coming back, so like maybe it just took them a little bit just to find the rhythm and find
and changing to sophomore quarterback AJ Lassane during the Lakeland game. He didn't start that game, but he finished it. 2 sophomores, AJ Lassane and Brayson Hurley, are like kind of that 1-2 combo quarterback wide receiver is really impressive to watch, and the junior running back Franco Biffle too. So like the seniors are kind of dominating the defense, and the underclassmen are kind of dominating the offense.
But I mean, both these teams have a ton of seniors. That's what we talked about coming into this season. Is that there is a lot of seniors on both of these rosters, and this was so when you have that type of experience, both of these teams were kind of circling 2024 as a season. This is going to be one of the better seasons in a couple years. Yeah. And now we're getting to this game where, especially for Marion, who's just coming off, like we mentioned, their first win, but even St. Joe now, as they're trying to make that, this is the game it all hinges on, like you said.
Yeah.
This feels like it'll be a 1-possession game late. Like, I don't think this game is going to be a blowout. So it should be fun. Should be a fun holy war. They're always fun. They're always fun. And usually. So at least the last couple of years they have been, because they've been kind of equal footing programs the last couple of years. So this is another game where it feels like they're on the same level. Could get interesting over there at in Mishawaka Marion, at Mishawaka Marion.
Yes. Do we think it's going to be more points than the 7-0 that South Bend St. Joe won?
It would be.
We hoping for it?
I think TV people are, because they want to get highlights for their broadcast. I don't really care. I don't care what the score really is. My pictures still look the same pretty much.
Although I will say, even though it was only 7-0 with a 1 yard or 2 yard touchdown, so not the best highlights. We did get the play of the night from that.
The
And
interception was nice.
that was the play of the night. Harrison Groves,
New
great
Prairie.
for New Prairie.
Jackson
Yes.
walked in. He goes, Sabrina, I don't know what you got, but I got play of the night.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like,
okay.
and it's from a
Wow.
7-0
Wow.
game. You know
Just
what?
the
How can you
confidence.
top this, Jackson? No, I'm just kidding.
The
I was gonna say
confidence.
that was what I had to
It was
say.
good.
Yeah.
All right. So then now that we're kind of going around looking at some other games this week, I think one thing we have to take a look at is Mishawaka. They are coming off that loss to Concord, but this week hosting Northwood. No weeks off. Really,
No
it feels
weeks
like
off.
right
Yeah.
now.
I think so. Northwood, right? They took care of business with Wawasee. That not a surprising result. Wawasee's a young program. There's the new head coach. They're going to be kind of regrouping for a while. So it's interesting. So I think if you put some truth serum in the Northwood head coach Nate Andrews this week, he'd probably tell you that he wanted Mishawaka to win last week, especially if they come back from down 35-20 in the last 4 minutes to rally and win that game. What's going on there?
that was on me.
Jackson,
That was on me.
unbelievable.
I was like,
Was that Nate Andrews trying to come through the vortex? What are you saying about me? It's like if you say his name 3 times, right? He pops up.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think they wanted Mishawaka to win that game because they would have won in a crazy comeback way, and it would have been a huge momentum, big win for Mishawaka, and they would have probably been coming down, right? Mishawaka lost. Now they're probably more motivated. It's much easier to lock in and focus when you lose that type of a game, like the next week, just being like, oh, we got to get our got to get back on track. So I think Mishawaka will win this game. I'm sorry in advance if they lose Keith Kinder. I really am. I'm not trying to jinx anybody here.
Jinxing a lot of teams this year.
I'm the master of it.
Yeah,
I'm the
you really
master of just jinxes. But
What was your score prediction for Notre Dame Northern Illinois?
I think everyone picked a lot to a little.
don't bring that up.
Can't blame that one on you.
Yeah. I had, for the record, I had 38-7, but
we were close.
I think this is just a game where Mishawaka knows that they can't lose another one if they want to be in the conference championship race. To get at least even a share of it, they would need a lot of work for them to win it outright at this point. They would need Concord or Warsaw to lose 2 games in conference, or they would need them both to lose 2 games in conference. Sorry, but. Yeah, it just feels like I don't want to say a must-win, but it's kind of a must-win for Mishawaka if they want to be in the NLC championship race still. So,
and I'm going to piggyback off of you and say I do think Mishawaka will win as well.
Okay, thank God. We're both chasing them.
We're
Should I say it too to just complete it?
Should we put a graphic out there too?
So I'll get a graphic made.
Game day graphic. We can be wrong.
And I say that because we saw the way, Penn bounced back from that loss. I feel like this was another, just punch in the gut for Mishawaka, knowing, how they started the season. Obviously, it was still a really good game. Not saying they got blown out by any means, but it's one of those losses where it's you think about it the next week and you're like, it gives you motivation in order to win the next one. So I feel like they're going to use that as motivation.
Yeah, Northwood will be lively.
Yeah.
Not saying Northwood. Not saying it's a blowout, but Northwood will be in the game. But I think Mishawaka will eventually pull away.
I think Northwood was this past week was a little helped by the fact that loss to Portage where they were up 16-0 and they come back and lose. I think after a week like that, you're going to come out a program like Northwood's going to come out the next week and just not miss a step basically.
Yeah. If Northwood had held on against Portage, this game would be I think even more intriguing. 3-0 a 3-0 Northwood team after all the talent we talked about that they graduated. To be 3-0, and they would have been, if they just won 16-0 against Portage, they would have had 3 double-digit wins. We probably would be talking about them in a different light overall. They're still a good team. They're still one of the area's probably 5-10 best teams right now. But that loss is kind of just I think living in the back of your head, man, how did they lose that game?
They were up, and then it just
people might pick Northwood to win if it was they were 3-0, and Mishawaka was coming off this loss. It's also at Mishawaka, which I think matters. I know it's road games aren't a huge deal in high school, but it still matters.
No, it definitely still matters.
Yeah.
And I think it's just crazy too. The one point you made it for Mishawaka is if they lose this game, already talking them out of the conference playoff, out of the conference race. It's just this is a team that less than a week ago we were sitting right here talking about how is the number
best
one
team in the area.
Yeah, the best team in the area, the number one team, and now less than a week later, just based off a result, it's this is how tough and how tight it is.
Yeah,
it feels like at the top. It just shows just how how close it is at the top of here.
And it makes it
Southern
exciting
area.
for us because
Yes, it does.
You just don't know who's going to be on their A game the next week. So
Exactly.
Of course. All right. Well, Austin, I'll just go to you. I guess any other games you're kind of keying in on this Friday night?
Yeah, so the game I am tentatively going to be at on Friday night is LaVille at Bremen. So Bremen is celebrating the 50th anniversary of the walk, is what they call it, air quote, the walk. It happened at the end of the 74 season where the coach, the late Don Bungie, challenged his team during the week or not a challenge, but an incentivizer of like, hey, if we beat Plymouth, the coaches and we will walk home from the game. 17 miles, by the way, Plymouth to Bremen. Bremen won 28-6. So the coaches walked home. The players joined them for a little bit, but eventually a bus came to pick up the players because the seniors had to take their SATs the next day. So that was a kind of important thing.
It's kind of
important when you're a high school kid. So that is an intriguing game. I mentioned it earlier about teams who maybe have like their season on the line, air quote. LaVille is one of those teams for me. This is a big game for LaVille. They're 1-2. They beat Central Noble last week in a game that they're supposed to win. They obviously struggled in their first two games against Triton and North Judson, but Triton's a good 1A team. So is North Judson is the favorite to win 1A state title right now in football. Like they're just that good.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a gut check, make or break type moment, I think, for LaVille. Like this is like if they lose this game, they're 1-3. They still have Tippy Valley left, who is a strong 3A team. They still have Knox left, who we think, and even though Knox is 1-2, like their two losses are to North Judson and Culver Academy, so they're they still have Jimtown left. Jimtown's playing with a lot of energy and momentum. They still have John Glenn left. Who knows what John Glenn will look like? They didn't play last week.
Yeah, so after that whole debacle.
They would have won. They probably would have beaten Fort Wayne Blackhawk Christian. Blackhawk was down to like 20 players available.
Well,
that's why they had to cancel the game.
Yeah.
So like LaVille, if they win this game, it gives them momentum and they're riding high and they can maybe be in some of these games. If they lose, they're 1-3 and there's not like a lot of winnable games left. Like they can win some of those games, obviously, but it's not like, oh, that's a win. Like this is kind of a make or break moment for LaVille, I think, in this season. And Bremen too, like in a sense, where like they're 2-1. They got a really nice win against Triton, and they took care of Osceola Grace. Fine. If they win this game, they probably are feeling confident, like, hey, their schedule is brutal. Along with those conference games that I just mentioned that LaVille has. Their non-conference game left is Culver Academy. So, like, this is a tough last 6 weeks for Bremen. This is a huge a chance for them to get a win and get that momentum going into next week or into the rest of the season. So this is a kind of a pivotal game for both as far as what will the rest of their seasons look like, I think.
Oh,
so that to me is definitely a more intriguing game going on down there at Bremen. And again, I will be at that as of this moment.
Look for Austin down there.
Go say hi to him.
Yeah,
go say.
Honestly,
if you see Austin, go say hi.
Signing autographs.
Yeah, from 5 to 6, I'll be out there signing
A
autographs.
meet and greet.
Yeah,
a
6
meet and
to
greet.
6:15.
We should put that out.
Honestly, all three of this is the first week of the Indiana Northern State Conference. This is our first time getting these games, and all three of them are intriguing. It's LaVille and Bremen, Jimtown at John Glenn for the reasons I kind of just mentioned, and then Tippy Valley at Knox. Like that is like the beginning of the year. Tippy Valley Knox felt like it was going to be the conference championship game. It still might end up being that. Obviously, they're still really strong teams, but Knox is kind of at that breaking point kind of moment too. Like if they lose Tippy Valley, they're 1-3. This is a team that went 13-1 last year, went to semi-state, has like basically the whole team back. Like this was supposed to be a team that was contending for the 3A state title this year. And if they start 1-3, I know it doesn't matter necessarily because everyone gets in the tournament and they can get hot late, but I don't think how many people had Knox 1-3, right? So that's another make or break type of moment for them. Other than that, not many other games really kind of sticking out. Just looking at the schedule right now, there should be some. I think Michigan City, Valparaiso could be interesting.
Yeah.
So Valparaiso is probably they're the number one team in the coaches poll in 5A.
I saw them week 1. They put up a lot of points.
And they're going to be number one, I think, in the media poll whenever that gets released. It's probably already released by the time this podcast came out. But I am not overly sold on the Vikings because they lost to Penn. They lost to Penn.
I was at that game and there was not any defense played by anybody.
They were down 21-0 to Andrean. They probably should have lost that game. They came back and won 28-21, and they took care of LaPorte. Like LaPorte is kind of a rebuilding program last week. So They're 2-1, yes, but you know what I mean? That's my thought. Is like I don't know. Like Michigan City, they played Warsaw week 1, very close game against a good Warsaw team. Lafayette Jeff week 2 is another strong team. They played them close. Then they shut out Chesterton, who was 2-0 going into the game. They shut out Chesterton 20-0. I'm not about to sit here and say Michigan City is going to win this game, but I think that game could potentially be closer than what the rankings will tell you. I think Valparaiso is probably a little overranked. Michigan City is maybe not underranked because they're not ranked to begin with, so I guess that means they're underranked by default. But they might be better than their 1-2 record says, and I think Valparaiso isn't as good as their 2-1 record says.
So it's just interesting, yeah.
Valparaiso's kind of being ranked high. It's like a reputation ranking, which they've earned it. They won the state title 2 years ago. They've been a great program for decades, so it's a reputation ranking. But don't be surprised if that game is close.
Keep our eyes on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Keep your eyes peeled, on that one.
All right, well, we got
late third, early fourth. It's all of a sudden it's only a 10-point game, maybe.
Okay,
7 points. No mythical betting lines being put on this.
Okay, we're gonna end it there.
For my friends in the desert.
There we go. All right, well that's good. That's recapping week 3, previewing week 4.
Yeah. Yep.
Week 4 on Friday the 13th this week, by the way.
Season.
Yeah, so a little.
Is there like a bet on Warsaw, orange and black, right?
Yeah, orange and black.
Spooky season.
Yeah.
I guess so.
They're playing Wawasee, so that'd be a safe bet.
There you go.
That would be a safe bet.
All right.
Quick shout out, by the way. Can I do my sports roundup?
You can do a little shout out. Other sports roundup. Let's give,
Mishawaka Marion girls soccer is now number 1 in Class 2A. That poll came out this week, so shout out the Mishawaka Marion girls soccer team. They tied 2 top 10 3A teams over the weekend, Carmel and Zionsville. So those are actually, I know it's not wins, but they didn't lose, and they played well against those 2 really good teams back-to-back days. So give a shout-out to the Marion Knights girls soccer team, number 1. Top 5 showdown with St. Joseph, I believe, Tuesday night. St. Joe's number 5 in 2A in girls soccer, so War. It's Holy War week.
Yeah.
So they're playing in every sport this week. That's how the NIC has set up their schedules. So it's kind of nice, actually. You just know whatever the football game is that week, they're playing probably in boys soccer, girls soccer, volleyball, tennis.
Makes it easy.
You just know exactly what it's going to be. So shout out them. And, shout out St. Joe and Penn boys tennis. They're both going strong. We got some really good cross-country runners. Liam Bauschke from Mishawaka. They're kind of saving him this year a little bit. He's not racing in every competition, which is smart, but he could potentially win state championship this year.
Real quick with cross-country, with the Plymouth runner.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Plymouth and Northwood moment. That was awesome.
That's such a great
iconic
moment.
It's a great moment of sportsmanship. And the mom's column that she wrote, that story was just like,
it was amazing.
Super emotional, man. That's the beauty of sports, man. That's the face of sportsmanship. IHSA should put that picture everywhere.
There we go. Yeah,
on all the logos.
Yeah, he wants to go to Texas A&M ROTC, so he wanted to do something service oriented. So I think that was really cool to see that. He was showing that even in high school. So.
Yeah, and also shout out Sarah Hildebrandt. Came back home. Came back home this past Sunday. Did a parade she had a parade in her honor. Gold medalist. I'm not going to sit here and claim to be a women's wrestling expert, but it's hard to think that she isn't the best American women's wrestler of all time. 7 Pan Am championships, a bronze in Tokyo, a gold medal in Paris.
It's a pretty good resume.
It's an incredible resume. If she's not number 1, she's in the top 5 easily, maybe the Mount Rushmore of U.S. women's wrestlers. And it cannot be understated how much of an impact she's had on this sport in Indiana specifically. She was pretty much the only girls wrestler when she started in 2009, 2008, when in middle school. Now IHSA sponsors girls wrestling. This is the first year coming up that it's an official tournament. Like an official girls wrestling state champion will be crowned by the IHSA this year. Sarah Hildebrandt laid the foundation for that. You're seeing the sport growing at an astronomical rate in this state, and a lot of it is to do with Sarah Hildebrandt. So a lot of respect to her for her career. And what she has done, and she got the heroes welcome, or the heroines welcome this past weekend, and that's just my take on that. So congratulations to her and everyone that helped her. Her brother Drew trained with her for the last 8 months, and Brad Harper, the Penn coach, has trained with her literally the entire journey, and so it's really cool. It's just really cool to see that.
Awesome.
So
Tons of
shout
good-
out Sarah Hildebrandt.
Of course. Tons of great storylines we got.
It's so much going on.
So much
man.
going on here.
You can
It's-
find it all at
fun.
southbendtribune.com.
SouthBendTribune.com,
At
WNDU.com.
At Austin R. Huff
At
on
Austin
Twitter.
R. Huff.
Don't forget his meet and greet on Friday.
Meet and greet on Friday at
Meet and greet on
Bremen.
Friday.
Yes, tentatively
Yes.
scheduled.
Tentatively scheduled. Yeah, for that at the
Make
Bremen
sure to get
football
in line
field.
first.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, get in line, keep your place.
Pre-order ticket link will be available
Of course.
at.
Of course. All right. That's a good play. We got to end this thing.
Okay, let's end this thing.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you on 16 Sports Extra with the South Bend Tribune next week for the podcast, and on Friday night, check out our coverage at 11 p.m. 16 Sports Extra, and then
South Bend Tribune's got everything rocked and loaded. We're going to be covering Northwood, Mishawaka, St. Joe at Marion, and the LaVille Bremen games.
sounds
Perfect.
good. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody.